Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are going to get right into the cognitive architecture well, of scientific breakthroughs. We're taking a scalpel to the minds of these great innovators, the people who come up with truly new ideas. We want to understand not what they know,
Yeah.
but how they think.
And that's such a crucial distinction, isn't it? This isn't about just being smarter.
Yeah.
We're moving beyond that. This deep dive is about a specific approach to knowledge, the deliberate habits they build.
So what's our mission here?
Our mission is to extract 5 core cognitive habits that seem to consistently guide them toward these huge discoveries, not just, small improvements.
Right, we're looking for the mental toolkit, the
Yeah.
thing that lets someone look at something everyone else takes for granted and see an unsolved mystery.
Exactly. It's the aha moment that separates, say, fundamental pattern recognition from just seeking confirmation for what you already think.
Or worse, just chasing whatever's trending this week.
Okay, so let's unpack this framework. Where do we start?
Well, the sources all point to this really foundational difference, that scientists think in patterns of truth, not opinions.
And that contrast is it's everything. When most people see a complex situation, the internal question is usually something like, what do I believe about this?
Or how should I feel?
Right. Or maybe, what's the consensus here? How do I align with that? It's opinion seeking.
And it's usually on the shortest possible time horizon, right? Like,
Yeah.
should I invest in this fad or back this viewpoint? The truth is temporary.
Exactly. The scientist, though, just completely flips that script. Their internal question is never about belief. It's always, what is the underlying hidden pattern here?
So something that doesn't change based on my feelings or where I live or even what century it is.
Yes. They are hunting for universal structure, for a truth that governs the entire system.
The classic example that always makes this so clear is Newton and the apple.
Of course.
I mean, for all of human history, people saw things fall. It was just background noise, a given.
But Newton didn't just see it. He moved past the single event, this apple, falling right here, to generate a question that really didn't exist before him.
He asked why all objects, apples, moons, planets, why they all obey the same force.
And how can that force be quantified? He shifted from a simple observation to a search for a universal law.
So they generate questions that nobody else even sees as a question. They just assume there has to be this elegant, hidden structure under all the chaos.
And their entire life's work is to find it. And once they have a hint of that structure, their next habit kicks in. And this one is just as counterintuitive.
Which is that they focus almost obsessively on the anomaly.
Yes. This is where it gets really interesting.
Because where most of us see noise, something to ignore or just an error, they see a critical signal. Every major breakthrough starts with that feeling of, wait, something here doesn't fit.
Exactly. The source material really hammers this home. It requires you to actively look for points of friction. If a model works 99% of the time, most people celebrate the 99%.
And you just smooth over the 1% failure.
But the scientist sees that 1% failure as the keyhole, the entry point to the next level of understanding.
But that's got to be so psychologically difficult. If Newton's laws work perfectly for 200 years, why would Einstein waste his time trying to find where they break? Confirmation is just so much easier.
It's incredibly difficult, and that's why it's a distinct mindset. You have to overcome that deep human need to have your worldview validated. Great minds are just fundamentally comfortable with being uncomfortable.
With that cognitive dissonance.
Right. Look at Einstein. He wasn't trying to destroy Newton. He just saw that the equations produced absurd results when you got close to the speed of light. That failure, that anomaly, is what drove relativity.
Or even the foundation of our entire digital world, Alan Turing. At the time, computation was just arithmetic, done by people or by these clunky machines built for one single purpose.
The prevailing pattern was that a machine had one fixed job, but the anomaly he spotted was much deeper. He asked if a machine could simulate any logical process. Basically, if it could simulate human thought.
That question itself was the anomaly.
Yeah.
It went against the entire industrial age mindset.
And it led directly to the conceptual blueprint for the modern computer.
It's the same pattern with Claude Shannon. Before him, communication was physical. Wires, voltage, radio waves. Shannon saw the anomaly. That the content of the message, the information itself, had its own properties, totally separate from the medium.
So by quantifying it, by creating the concept of the bit, he separated the signal from the noise. He created the blueprint for everything, Wi-Fi, data storage, all of it.
So this brings up a really important question for you, the listener.
Okay.
When you run into something that contradicts what you already know, do you dismiss it?
Or do you lean in and actively search for the reason for that friction? Because true discovery, it lives right there in that point of breakdown.
And seeking out that friction requires this incredible patience and internal drive, which leads us perfectly into the third cognitive habit.
The long time horizon mode.
This one feels like the most countercultural of them all. It's the absolute opposite of the modern world.
It really is. In an age of instant feedback, quarterly reports, the scientific endeavor has no instant reward. There are no likes, no applause, and really no guarantee of success for years, often decades.
We are talking about people who think in timelines measured in generations. A scientist might spend 10, 15 years on a single problem just because the problem itself feels important.
Not because the solution is around the corner or because it's marketable.
So how do they do it? How do they handle the self-doubt, the pressure, when they spend a decade on something with no guaranteed payoff?
Their sources of pleasure have to be completely internal.
Totally. The motivation is divorced from what anyone else thinks. The joy comes from the process itself.
The satisfaction of solving a really beautiful puzzle, breaking a complex pattern.
And feeling that flash of understanding. That moment, the universe shows you a tiny piece of its code. The joy is just in knowing a little bit more.
And if you connect that to the big picture, it explains why foundational science needs structures that can tolerate failure, that can tolerate long stretches where it looks like nothing is happening.
You see that timeline all the time. A theoretical paper from, say, 1959 needs 50 years to mature before it sees some breakthrough in 2020.
That quiet, decade-long focus is the engine of progress.
And that deep, quiet focus often means they need an internal compass to guide them. Which brings us to the fourth habit. And this one might be the most surprising.
The value of beauty in ideas.
Yeah, this is where science and art really seem to cross paths. It's this aesthetic drive.
The greatest thinkers, they chase beauty in logic, just like an artist chases beauty in form. For them, a theory doesn't just have to be correct. It has to be, well, beautiful.
We should probably define what scientific beauty even means. It's very specific.
It is. It's about simplicity. Not easy, but minimal complexity.
It's about symmetry, that deep structural balance.
It requires minimal assumptions. No need for a bunch of patches or special rules. And finally,
deep explanatory power. The ability to explain a huge range of things with one single elegant framework.
it has to feel right, not just be computationally correct. This trust in elegance is so profound.
Yeah.
You have Paul Dirac saying, this equation is beautiful.
Einstein would talk about solutions that feel elegant.
And Shannon was looking for information structures that were clean. They're all using aesthetic words to guide a rigorous process.
What's so fascinating is that this pursuit of beauty, this clean, minimal solution often gets them to the truth faster than just brute force. If a solution is clumsy, if it needs 6 different fixes to work.
They intuitively reject it.
And what's the implication there?
The implication is that clumsy systems usually mean you've misunderstood the underlying logic. They have this core faith that a truly fundamental truth should be expressible without all that clutter.
It's like a built-in error correction system based on aesthetics.
Exactly. And this appreciation for structural elegance leads us right into the fifth and final cognitive habit.
The foundational mindset, thinking in building blocks, not final products.
This is such a critical separation between, say, the entrepreneur and the scientist. The inventor or the business person asks, how do I sell this? What's the product?
But the scientist, with that long time horizon, asks a different question.
They ask, how do I create a leader long after I'm gone?
They weren't trying to build products to sell. They were creating conceptual frameworks, the bedrock that future products would stand on.
Let's just go back to our examples. Alan Turing's 1936 paper wasn't about building a laptop.
No, it was pure theory.
It was a theoretical exercise to define the concept of computation. But that concept is the operating principle for every single device you use today. Your phone, the servers, all of it.
And it's the same huge leap with Shannon. His 1948 paper on information theory. I mean, the mathematical definition of a bit and how to transmit it was completely abstract.
He literally created the mathematics of communication.
And that math became the foundational building block for 5G, for Wi-Fi, for streaming Netflix. Every compression algorithm we use.
The value wasn't immediate, but its utility grew exponentially because his contribution wasn't a product. It was a universally applicable concept. He built the bedrock.
allowing future generations to build the skyscrapers.
Precisely.
So what does this all mean for you listening? We've sort of uncovered this 5-part toolkit of the groundbreaking mind.
Prioritizing universal patterns, obsessing over anomalies, embracing the long time horizon.
Chasing beauty and logic, and focusing on foundational building blocks. And you don't need a PhD to apply this toolkit to your own work.
Right. If you synthesize it all, the scientific mindset is really defined by the courage to question assumptions, the patience to wait decades for validation, and the clarity to value elegance over immediate utility.
They're driven by this unwavering internal compass that points toward fundamental, elegant truth, no matter what the temporary trends are.
Exactly.
And that brings us to our final takeaway question for you. If the greatest pleasure for these thinkers comes from solving a puzzle and understanding the universe a little better, that deep intrinsic reward,
Then how much of your daily focus is spent chasing fundamental, unchanging patterns versus temporary trends?
and, maybe more critically, what truly meaningful problem could you commit to spending the next 10 years on, simply because the question itself matters?
We'll lie to you on that.